Hey, James Harnsberger here, and we are ready to get started. Wealth by Design. I have two great guests today, and I want to take the time just to introduce and what we're going to be doing. Again, we're really working on focus to look at our financial life and maybe ask some different questions, right? Not better questions, just different questions. And I think part of the different questions is it working? And if your financial life's not working, there might be a reason. And so we're going to be exploring that today. We have the Howards. We have Teen and Melissa. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. So what I'd like to do is maybe just get started and just a little bit about your background and your story a little bit. I know that we've had a little bit of experience in that we did a focus group, and you were part of one of our last focus groups.
Yep.
Where we were actually developing some of the program materials and trying to figure out how to make it work and really help people understand reconnecting with their financial life. And so I think that gave you a big advantage to where we are today. But why don't you just start with, maybe we'll start with Melissa, a little bit about your story and kind of what led to where we are today.
Wow. Well, I'm happy to be here. Speaking for myself, I'm at this point where I am now because what I was doing previously up to this point wasn't working. Maybe up to about a year and a half ago or so, since we've been working with you. Growing up, I didn't have much of a financial rock to look up to. So I kind of just, learned myself, taught myself, so to speak. And money for me has never been like a friend. It's always been more of an angst for me. I love money. I'm good at making it. I'm here because I want to learn how to become friends with it and tell it where to go instead of it running my life. So almost like a reverse. So that's
just kind of like flipping.
Yeah, I'm flipping.
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's
I
awesome.
feel it's happening.
Yeah,
slowly
that's
but
cool.
surely.
Yeah, awesome. Teen, how about you?
Well, as you know, we did have some IRS problems, and those problems were not going away anytime soon. And so, being in that type of that type of rut, so to speak, which I call a rut because it's, you owe so much money, doesn't feel good. You think about it all the time. So I associated money with owing money, and it did have a negative undertone, although we were good.
It oozes out into your life.
We're good at making money. It's just we're not good at controlling it and telling it what to do.
And
So our experiences in our lives, whether it was medical problems or just being irresponsible, not saving enough, telling ourselves that the IRS is just going to go away. It's not going to, bite us in the butt, so to speak. We just made these choices, and we're left to really try to figure it out. And so instead of just having it dealt with, we went through these programs and all that, and it's kind of been shedding a lot of light, and we've been changing. A lot of things have been changing for the good, and we're actually seeing it work. So being for where we were, 10 years ago to where we are now, we still have challenges. We still have things going on in our lives, but financially we're creating new habits.
All right, cool. Awesome. So let me ask you a question, because you both brought up a very good point. So like today, we go around, and so much of what we're dealing with, and I think we've had some conversations about this, so much of what we're dealing with is already set up in this like auto mode, right? And we get into this pattern or this habit of even like auto ship and auto pay, right? And not until we actually stop and maybe do that assessment and take a look and just ask a different question, right? About if it's not working, maybe why is it not working, right? Can you talk a little bit about what that was like for you to go through that part of the process where you're looking at it and asking a different question?
Yeah, I mean, for me, speaking personally, it was about slowing down, learning how to slow down.
Okay.
Because I'm such a fast mover. I'm just a doer.
90 miles an hour.
Always.
One speed.
24 hours a day.
Yep, got it.
And so for me, stopping and taking a step back and saying, just what you always say, James, do you need this or do you want this? And what emotional state are you in right now making that decision?
Right.
Regardless of what it is.
Right.
You know? And I noticed a pattern. When I click Prime on Amazon outside of food, if it's a pair of yoga pants or something, just something to make me feel good in that moment.
Right.
Because that's why I'm doing it.
Right.
I've actually stopped this past couple of months and went, Melissa, you literally have 62 pair of yoga pants.
Right.
Do you really need these?
Right.
No. Who cares if they're $19.99? It's
Right.
like, so that's a huge, huge shift for me.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. You know, and I shared this on one of the podcasts because we had a client that was like in a real financial bind. And when we went through that whole assessment thing, in 1 month, she had bought 65 pair of shoes in 1 month. It was like 15 grand,
That's crazy. Wow.
right? And so it doesn't matter
No.
where you're at economically, what financial group you're in or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just more zeros next to the number that you're spending,
yeah,
right?
you're trying to fill a bucket, a hole in yourself that has nothing to do with what the object is.
Right. And the thing about that I thought was so interesting in some of the studies I've been reading is the way that it's set up on the internet is that you get this, like what I call this little squeeze of happy juice in your brain, right? And it feels good for the moment. And then by the time that shit arrives and shows up, you're already in remorse.
And you're like, what is it?
What is?
You don't
Oh, I
even know what it
forgot.
is.
Yes, yes, I forgot. I ordered that. Right, Teen. How about for you? What was the shift for you?
I think it's been shifting since we started, and
Okay.
every time we talk and go through a wave, I think it shifts for me. But I think, for instance, when you say auto pay, I think of it as we tell our children, we have children, we tell our children what to do. If you're a boss, you tell, your employees what to do. I mean, people want to know, what they're
What
doing.
to do.
Right.
Right.
Why not tell your money what to do?
Right.
And so it's like, we're constantly worried about it. It's such a focus in our lives. Why are we letting someone else say, I'm going to take $19.99 from you this month? And then you're going, well, wait a second. I don't want
Well,
that
don't worry about it.
anymore.
We'll put it on auto ship so you don't
Right.
have to think about it,
Yeah.
right?
And you have to contact the company to tell them you don't want the product. But that was the point where I've learned,
Cycle.
stop before you just do something, because there might be a repercussion. And is it going towards that design that you want, or is it leading you off these little directions? And so I think it's a lot easier now for me, because of these shifts, to kind of make these different choices to get a different outcome. Because if I'm not happy with the outcome, that's
That's
2
feedback.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
it's my fault.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
is. I can't blame anyone.
Well,
else.
that's the let's take fault out of it. Maybe that's just the result of the choice and it didn't work.
Bingo.
Right?
Exactly.
And if it's not working, then the way I look at it is we get a chance to ask a different question, right?
Correct.
Part of the challenge, and kudos to both of you, because Melissa, I know that you both have had huge hills to climb with the health issues, right? And that compounded the problem, right? And then all of a sudden it was, well, do I pay the medical or do I pay the IRS, right? Nobody wants to be in that situation ever, right? And without getting into the detail part of it, I think part of the focus that I'd like to talk about is what's different today in terms of defining where you want to be as opposed to maybe where it was 3 or 4 years ago. Melissa?
Well, for me particularly, I'd say the last 6 years, I've truly believe and realize that life is short no matter how old you get. You could live to be 105 and it's still short.
Right.
And I think that for me, in what I do in my career outside of, I'm always practicing being present and being mindful with what you're doing, what you're saying, what your thoughts are. Everything compounds, right? Life is built on a choice, literally. So I just think that those metaphors for me are way more in the forefront of my mind than they've ever been.
Okay.
So that's a huge, huge shift for me.
Okay. All right. How about you, Teen?
I think, there's been a lot of shifts, but I'll just tell you financially, the shift is coming from being more aware
Okay.
and being more present and doing something different. So those little things that you do on a daily basis financially kind of grow and become bigger in the long
In
the
other
long
aspects
term.
of your life.
Yeah, and so obviously doing that in other aspects of your life too.
Yeah.
But
Do you apply that to
financially,
your
Yes.
health,
correct.
your nutrition,
It bleeds out.
your relationships,
Exactly.
right? Your spirituality.
Yep.
These things work in any aspect of your life. We're just right now focused on your financial life.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Would it be safe to say that if your financial life is more intact and has more harmony, right, it makes easy the other things that we have in the other aspects of our life? Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially for him.
Has the stress gone down?
of course.
Okay.
And I think also spiritually, whatever your spirituality is, if that comes first and you can trust, and then the financial part just happens and you start trusting with the financial part, it just becomes the circle of, I don't want to say ease, but you just feel a lot better. And I think just the fact that you feel better gives you the ability to make other choices, thus changing the direction.
Or even
that
see
you've
that
done.
you can make other choices.
Exactly, which is a blessing. in
Less
itself.
effort. Less
Correct.
effort. Effortless, maybe.
Yeah. So
Maybe.
yes.
So one of the things that I thought was really important when we went to work on really trying to design a program was, what is the end game? In other words, you can go out there on the internet and you can find a gazillion programs, right, for all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Fix your credit, get a loan, do this, do that. I think that one of the things that we sat down, and that was one of the reasons why we did the focus group, and everybody, including yourself, gave us a lot of feedback that helped us really refine this whole process. And so I'm going to ask your opinion on something. Is it safe to say that in terms of a process, that what our primary goal was helping people establish and reconnect a relationship with their money and their financial life? That's really the ambition of our program. Is it safe to say that that's kind of how you're feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk about that, team?
Well, yeah, I think you kind of do it in a hidden way, because I think, and I actually was thinking about this before I came in. So you can hire someone to help you with your finances. They'll do it, and you're not really that connected. You just, please let me do it. Or you can hire someone to say, hey, let's show you different ways to do it. Now, once you do it, you become that person who actually has achieved something, who has achieved a goal and pulled it off. You feel a lot better, but you actually did it yourself with the guidance. And I think that is kind of how you have framed our relationship. I mean, yeah, you've helped us out in many ways, other than financially, because we did a focus group that wasn't just financial. It was
Right.
about, choices, but it all kind of blends together. Now, how long it takes to figure it all out, I mean, that's up to you. But I
Right.
feel like, if you really open yourself up to it and take a step back and look at what we have and what we've been through, and it's like, we're pretty lucky and we're blessed.
Yeah.
And so just having that type of guidance has lifted us, or lifted me, and I know you too, has lifted us up higher in our own, like self-worth, because it's like, yeah, I can do this. Like, I don't need to just pay someone to do my taxes.
Get that confidence.
Yes,
Let's do it right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
So-
the word, confident.
Yeah, and then I'll go to Melissa. So, and I think I've paraphrased this a number of times. You can hire a coach for almost anything, including being a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coaches to learn how to coach. And a coach is really good if you want somebody to show you what and how to do something, right? You can also hire an advisor, like a financial advisor. And generally, a financial advisor is going to point out what and why to do something. Invest in a 401k and buy IBM.
Mm-hmm.
What and why? And so in the takeaway that we had from all of the focus groups, a part of which you both participated in, was we wanted to create a different model. And the model we wanted to create was that of a mentorship model. Because when you actually look at the word mentor and the process of a mentorship, what a mentor does is creates an opportunity for an experience of doing something. And that's very different because you're actually doing in that experience, right? Would it be safe to say that that's kind of how about you?
Yeah, and I think it's 100%. What I love so much about it is that I'm able to hold myself accountable instead of being told what to do.
Right.
It's like, no, Melissa, you're going to tell your money what to do.
Right.
James is going to go, oh, well, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. It's like, I don't know. What have you learned?
Right.
Have you learned anything?
Right. It's your money.
Right.
Right.
It's your choice.
And it's your choice. Mm-hmm. But now you realize you have choices.
Right.
And I think we've all felt this. I know I felt this years back. When you feel, particularly financially, that you have no choices or only one choice left, that's almost like a desperate feeling, right?
Always.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then the decisions that you're making are not coming from an emotional state of confidence or comfort.
Right. Correct.
They're coming from desperation and despair.
Bingo.
And fear.
Right? And fear. And then all of a sudden, it's not that people forget to file their taxes or pay the electric bill. It's they're paralyzed.
Yeah.
Have you felt paralyzed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So how is it different today, Melissa, in terms of not feeling paralyzed, maybe empowering or something like that?
Well, it's interesting because I notice those moments so much more now when I feel that I could feel it coming on.
You can
it's
feel
almost
the
like
little signs popping up on the radar.
Yeah. It's
Right.
like a trigger, like, ooh, I
Yeah.
don't like that feeling.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, okay, well, what can I do differently to make it not that feeling? Maybe not do
That's
it.
awesome.
Or maybe do something
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
So that's a huge shift for me. Because
Perfect.
before I'd just be an autopilot. Myself.
And how much of our financial life or other stress factors take away from our health? And when we're already in a situation where maybe we're fighting a health issue, right? That adds or compounds to the adverse effects on our health, right?
Big time.
Big time, right?
Yep.
Teen, how about you?
My relationship with money, plain and simple, just having a different relationship and knowing the feelings I get when I do this, and this is how I feel. And if I feel that's a good feeling, that's the feeling I want to stay in. And how do I get to that feeling all the time? Well, you got to change this, and this. So just kind of now I'm just working out another pattern so that,
Kind of mapping it out a little bit,
yeah.
right?
So I'm just trying to, so that it's kind of a direct point to the design, and then I don't really have to mess with it too much
Okay.
and just keep moving forward.
So let me ask you a question for both of you. Because in any marriage or intimate relationship, there's always three people. There's you, there's her, and then there's the combined collective you, right? And the personality, the financial personality that Melissa has is one style. Teen has another style, sort of like Susan and I. And then you have this collective style, right? Tell me how that is different in the relationship, in both of your, in terms of your marriage and your relationship, how things have shifted or changed.
I'll start with this one.
Yeah, go ahead. He's got a smile.
Well,
Hopefully it's good.
We're both very different in spending.
Of course.
I'm much more frugal and look at things like, do we need it? And I feel that she's a little bit more disconnected, not in a bad way. It's just, that's just the way it is. But I feel like we've been going through this, it's gotten better because now we have the same design where we want to be. And so right now, as we speak, we're going through the process to have her separate, me separate, but still all the same. But we're both different people. We do things differently, but how are we going to do those two things differently and be aligned, as a group to get that same goal? So it's like this pyramid shifting that we're working on right now. And we both agree that, what we've been doing in the past hasn't totally been the best. It hasn't worked that well. So
you're trying something different.
So we're doing this differently. And, not to say that, we both have our little issues with money. It just, we do things differently. And I think we're kind of coming to a head where, we can actually do this.
I think recognizing that you both do things differently is all that is necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've recognized that, that's a big deal.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it's good, bad, or right or wrong. It just
No.
means you do things one way, Melissa does things another way. So like Susan and I.
Right.
Susan has her way of doing things financially. I have my way. And we have, and it sounds like what you're getting, we have the ability to negotiate and come to consensus, right? The big stuff we don't do unless we're in agreement 100% on the big stuff. And then you've got to define what's the big stuff.
But that's the important of a design. If you
Right.
both have the same design, you
Right.
can look at each other and go, well, was that the way or is this the way?
Well, that's what, yeah.
You
like-
know the direction. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to tell her the direction.
Right.
Towards
You both are going in the same direction,
Exactly.
in other words.
After
right?
a while, we'll be browbeaten to it and we'll be like, that's it,
But then when he's saying defining what the big stuff is, that's important too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what we've learned, and what I think a lot of people have learned, is that if you don't define what do we mean when we say big stuff? Is that a dollar number? Is that, something that is joint credit? Or what is a big stuff thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the difference is that you're having a dialogue is the big difference. You're actually discussing
Communicating.
Mm-hmm.
and reconnecting not only to the money, but to the relationship and the money, right?
Right.
How about for you, Melissa?
Speaking for myself, I feel like we're definitely turning a corner.
Okay.
Like we're shifting. And I'm very proud of him just because of how well I know him. He's always been the one that is more motivated to be better with money. I've always been the one that's like in the mindset of just make the money, it'll all be okay. Just keep making money. Just keep like I've just been like this.
Right, like the hamster.
Yes.
Right.
Totally. And so it's kind of neat to stop and be like, I want to be more like him in that way in his thought process.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Because that's our biggest challenge in our marriage. To just put it bluntly, has been money, I think.
Right.
And the way how different we are in relationship to it.
Right.
So we're learning a lot about each other through this process. And I'm having to take accountability for my own actions.
Yeah.
Both of us,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing, and then we'll kind of move to wrap up, and I want to just kind of frame this in a way that gives us sort of a dovetail to the next segment that we want to do. the issue of, just as one example, when you're in a pattern and things have been set up, maybe by default or whatever, that they just work this way, whether they work or not, this is just how shit goes on and has been done. Let's just take taxes, for example. It's sort of like that wheel that the hamster gets on. There's a lot of motion, but the wheel never actually goes anywhere because the hamster doesn't figure that out, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the hamster every day gets on the wheel and runs like hell, right? That son of a bitch is just going to keep running, and eventually it's going to move somewhere, right? And it doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the hamster dies, and now we have a dead hamster on the wheel, right? So recently, you had a different experience and an outcome with, let's just say, the taxes, right? And what was the shift in terms of any aha or awareness? Because, and I'm going to frame it this way. It was only one tiny little thing that was done different. It was one tiny thing that was done different, that you made a different decision or a different choice to do, and that over a short period of time resulted in a very different outcome.
Yeah.
And I know you realize that, right?
Yeah.
So, Melissa, for you, what was that aha when you actually realized that that was a very different outcome, at least in terms of your taxes?
Well, months and months ago, oh gosh, almost probably a year ago, for a while, I have been wanting to have my own business, our own business. And I've had to gain that confidence to back me up to do that. So I've worked really hard at that outside of my day career. And so I just had a whim to, I'm going to take the steps it takes to, because I'm a firm believer, if you do it, you see it, it's there, you're pushing it forward, you're moving it forward, that it will become your reality. So I thought, well, I'm going to register a business name. I'm going to do the steps it takes to make this tangible and real and not just some pie in the sky.
Right.
I can do this, like way more capable. I can totally do this, So that's one thing I've never lacked is confidence. And this program always reminds me of that, of who I am underneath all this stuff.
Right.
So I started a business and I started paying attention to that. And that coupled with some other things helped us with our taxes.
Yeah.
And it was like a miracle. I mean, like...
And withholdings.
Yeah. So the one little shift of just having confidence and belief in myself or in us allowed that to happen.
And put you on a very different trajectory. A very different there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. How about for you?
I'll just make it simple. Small change. Just a little teeny tweak, big outcome. And that was like, wow, if I can do that with that, I can do that with this, and this. And like, once again, if you're doing tweaking with your own life and your relationship, that's great. It builds that part up. If you could do that with your money, that means you could build your money up. And that's an aha moment for me.
That's a big deal.
It's like, wow, okay, wait, if I could shift this, and this, I could be, I could...
The laws of compounding and all that.
Boom.
That's
Right.
a big deal.
So you've been talking about patterns, and I'm a photographer, so patterns I see patterns very clearly. And it's all kind of coming together. And I just kind of laugh. We were laughing about it because we were like, we see it. We're like, this is really funny. We're doing things differently instead of giving our kids the master bedroom when we move. It's like we both looked at each other. We said, "We're gonna have a hell of a time here."
That was an aha moment.
This is a great house for us.
That's our bathroom in our bedroom.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
that's
watch
awesome.
out, world.
Time not to spoil. Yeah, that's over.
And that's another big part of this because, you go to the issue of self-esteem, self-respect, the feeling of self-worth and value and all of those. And anytime that our financial life is out of balance or lacks harmony, or we're not connected with it, all of those things trigger, right? And it's like instant, right? And I like that analogy of that small shift. And I remember that one way to illustrate that, if I were to to launch a missile that had candy bars in it to go from San Diego to West Virginia, right? I would have a trajectory, right? And I would have that honed in, and then when it got there, it would land, and everybody would have free candy bars, right? Because that's the only kind of missile I want to launch, one that has free like Snickers, right? I like Snickers. I cannot eat them.
Frozen
I
Snickers.
love them. Anyway, and then if I were to change from San Diego, the trajectory by just 3 degrees, either north or south,
Right.
over the distance of that time and distance, it would land in a very different place, wouldn't it?
Big time, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So my point in that metaphor, clumsy as it was, is that a little bit of time was a little bit less than a year was the trajectory, and the destination you landed in was very different because now you are moving forward in a business that is something that you really desire, and you're moving forward with the confidence to do that, and you have put behind you this pattern of, well, it's tax season again, and we're going to have another tax problem because that went away by what you did. That one little shift.
Exactly.
Is that a fair assessment?
Way fair, yep.
All right. Final thoughts, and then we'll break and prepare for another segment. But final thoughts. If you were to, Melissa and team, both of you, if you were to just describe to somebody one big takeaway that has helped you in what you've gone through, could you just take a minute and just describe that? And because really the folks that are watching right now, I'm going to tell you, they're a lot like you, a lot like me, a lot like Susan, a lot like a lot of people. All of this COVID, all of this nonsense that has gone on, there is more uncertainty now and more confusion now. And I think that this program is timed perfectly for these times right now, because if nothing else, I believe people do have choices. I believe people can do different things, right? But maybe they just need more time. Maybe they need more help. Maybe they need a little bit more guidance and direction. So could you just maybe wrap up and just give us your takeaway so people can hear from your story where you're at?
I've gained a lot more clarity. I think that's a huge word that comes to me, or feeling that comes to me, is the clarity and the confidence that, I mean, we're all here to, every day, everything we do is a decision and a choice to either go this way or that way. And if we can gain the skills that we might not have to be better at that, that's what this is all about. If you're wanting to shift and create a different pattern of water or whatever, this is it. This is how to do it.
Awesome. Teen, how about you?
Well, I think I kind of said this a few times, but for me, it's kind of seeing the outcome. I mean, we go to the doctor, we go to the gym, we help our bodies out, we help so many different aspects of our life. It's like, if we could do that with our money, help, and have someone actually kind of guide us through that without just telling us what to do, but kind of guiding us and showing us the way and kind of nudging us so that we do it ourselves. I think that, to me, is a wealth of knowledge. And right now, any type of edge you have in this really unstable time we're in, and I'm not, not being cliche, but it is unstable.
Right.
It's nice to feel that, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more mindful to this situation, this financial situation, so that I'm going to have, feel like I'm going to have an edge in the future.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I'm getting this. So if people are watching and they, want to have that clarity and, this is what I'm getting, and I'm getting a lot out of it. And yeah, that's what
Wealth of knowledge kind of parlays into basically wealth by design,
Mhm.
right? Because it's not just financial wealth, right?
Yeah, no, I get
No.
it.
A lot of this affects almost every other
Yes.
aspect of our life. Because if your financial life is working where it's all shitty, right, and shit's just falling apart all the time, I got to imagine that you're not eating right, you're not exercising, you're probably bitching at your spouse, kicking the dog, or any number of other things that you might be doing, right? And I think there's a big reason for that. I think that we put a lot more emotional energy into money than what we realize,
Yeah, we do.
or maybe recognize when it
Yeah, we
triggers,
do. I
right?
agree.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that we really stop and think about how much emotion we have invested in the money, right?
Well, it dictates your mood. I mean,
It
you just
does.
think about a moment when you're having an issue with money versus, oh, I just got paid or I just made X amount of dollars. The
I have a bad day doing day trading. I've got to be mindful, because otherwise my beautiful wife has to listen to my bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I'm having a bad day, leave it in the day trading office,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you heard it first, and you heard it direct. Here's what I'm going to say. It's not about how to fix your credit. I don't care about your credit, and you shouldn't care about your credit until you figure out where you're at financially and what your financial, basically how is your financial life set up? Do you have everything that you want and desire? And if not, maybe you got a little bit more work to do. I don't know. Here's what I do know. If you don't know where there is financially, it doesn't matter where you are, because you don't know if you're ever going to arrive there. And that's the big part that I think that we're trying to help everybody understand. Make a different choice, you get a different outcome. And it's up to you. This is James Harnsberger, Wealth by Design. See you on the next take.